Now, getting back to it, and that's what they're all been trying to do, because he's thinking, if I can get this man angry, get this man mad, then he'll deviate from his game plan.
Won't be any more of it, that's for sure. And everybody wants to show some respect to each other. And let's see the fight where it should happen in the ring on Saturday.
Oleksandr Usyk remains totally calm while Rico Verhoeven attempts to increase the tension during the intense face-off and provoke a reaction from him. Usyk refuses to let intimidation affect him and responds immediately with a quick slap that completely shifts the energy in the moment. Fight experts and boxing veterans are now reacting across social media, applauding Usyk's composure while criticizing Rico's disrespectful psychological tactics before the showdown. Johnny Nelson explains how psychological tactics have always played a major role in boxing promotion, but he also makes it clear that certain boundaries should never be pushed too far. With Oleksandr Usyk facing the aggressive pressure tactics of Rico Verhoeven, many people within the fight community now believe Usyk's icy response was completely understandable and fully deserved.
After the fight, he may apologize and say, look, I went too far, I shouldn't have said that. But he needed to get a response from Anthony Joshua and get him into a certain mindset.
Eddie Hearn raises concerns about a fighter's mentality and emotional balance, explaining that world-class physical ability becomes useless if someone loses control mentally. In the ongoing situation between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven, this puts even more attention on Rico, especially since Usyk has built a reputation for remaining calm, focused, and emotionally untouchable whenever rivals attempt to get inside his head.
But he's going to be dangerous. Like, all the attributes that he has, they still exist, regardless of his mental state. But I see a kid in pain, I've got to be honest with you, I don't see how people around him can be looking at his behaviour and being comfortable with it.
Adam Smith explains that drama and controversy have become a major part of modern boxing promotion, and incidents like Oleksandr Usyk slapping Rico Verhoeven only generate even more worldwide attention around the fight. Although some people have criticized the tension and chaos, many insiders believe the moment has boosted Usyk's profile even further while causing Rico's psychological tactics to completely backfire in front of a much larger audience.
It's the fight business, and it's just made it even bigger, and we wait to see what happens next. And I'm a storyteller, and I love the interest and intrigue in matchups, and I think this is a fight that the casuals will just revel in. Is it controversial? Have we already seen controversy?
Oleksandr Usyk displays total composure in this moment, refusing to react emotionally to the psychological tactics and constant provocations from Rico Verhoeven. His behavior represents the mindset of a true elite competitor, where outside distractions never interfere with concentration or control. This is exactly why so many fans and analysts believe Usyk holds the stronger mental advantage heading into this intense and emotional rivalry.
But he's going to be dangerous. Like, all the attributes that he has, they still exist, regardless of his mental state. But I see a kid in pain, I've got to be honest with you, I don't see how people around him can be looking at his behaviour and being comfortable with it.
Dave Allen speaks with complete honesty here, raising doubts about whether Rico Verhoeven truly deserves to be part of a serious world title boxing conversation. Although he gives credit to Rico's legendary kickboxing career, he also emphasizes that entering the world of Oleksandr Usyk is an entirely different challenge and a much higher standard. This further builds the narrative that Usyk is dealing with constant scrutiny while continuing to prove his quality and composure under intense pressure.
But I'm not interested in. I like Rico Verhoeven, sparred him, know him, nice fella, very good kickboxer, one of the best of all time, but he's not a boxer. If he wants to fight,
Can he box?
Yeah, he can box. He's a very good boxer, but he shouldn't be boxing the best heavyweight in the world. If he wants to do it as an exhibition, go and do it. I'm not interested in Usyk Verhoeven, just for the simple fact it's a miss.
Paul Smith brings attention to the controversy surrounding Rico Verhoeven receiving an opportunity against Oleksandr Usyk, with many fighters believing they were unfairly passed over. At the same time, he recognizes Usyk's dominance in the sport and fully supports his right to decide his own direction. This adds even more tension to the debate over whether Usyk is getting a legitimate challenge or simply being pushed against a dangerous crossover rival with nothing to lose.
Boxer for a long time and not really done much in boxing at all to warrant a shot at Oleksandr Usyk when there's a queue so big. And
Indeed.
You know what I mean? And that's the most important thing. The people who are sitting waiting for their shot in line are going to be fuming over this. Some would say, to counter their arguments, Usyk's probably earned the right to have an easier one.
Johnny Nelson points out how Oleksandr Usyk has already conquered the heavyweight division and now operates from a position where every decision is carefully calculated. Although many critics continue to question the matchup with Rico Verhoeven, Nelson believes Usyk is still finding ways to prove his greatness while also pursuing massive financial opportunities. This adds yet another dimension to the growing controversy and discussion surrounding the fight.
Got to look at Alexander, what he's done. He's wiped the floor with everybody. He's established himself at the top there. So now you look at him and you'll think financially, will he be in a better position than Tyson Fury? No, not in my opinion. Anthony Joshua? No, not in my opinion. The big money fights aren't out there for him. So he's got to do something. He's got to put himself in a position where he's got to win, because he's proved he's top draw. So in this fight here, I think it creates interest, intrigue. I'm quite sure there's a healthy pay packet at the end of it. This is now business.
Spencer Oliver heavily questions Rico Verhoeven and his sudden entrance into a world title discussion, emphasizing the lack of high-level boxing experience on his record. These comments continue to fuel the debate over whether Oleksandr Usyk is facing a true competitive challenger or simply a commercially driven opponent built around hype and attention. It also places even more pressure on Rico to prove he genuinely belongs among elite-level boxers.
Kid's had one bout as a professional boxer. You go, so, you know, how can he jump the queue and box Oleksandr Usyk for the WBC title? To me, that doesn't make any sense at all, and I think it makes a mockery, again, of the WBC.
Peter Fury recognizes that both Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven are willing competitors, suggesting this kind of crossover clash was always likely to materialize at some point. However, he also notes that mutual respect between them does not erase the underlying tension, especially following the face-off incident that escalated emotions. This ultimately highlights how both fighters are stepping into an extremely high-pressure environment where reputations, pride, and expectations are all on the line.
Rico wanted the fight, you know, Usyk wanted it. They said both ultimate fighting men, aren't they? So fights like this are not going to be hard to make.
Ade Oladipo breaks down the elite kickboxing pedigree of Rico Verhoeven, stressing that his accomplishments make him far too dangerous to be dismissed, even when facing a boxing specialist like Oleksandr Usyk. Although Rico is widely regarded as a dominant force in kickboxing, Oladipo points out that transitioning into professional boxing against Usyk completely reshapes the challenge. In this environment, proven experience at the highest level of boxing becomes a decisive factor.
Oleksandr Usyk steps in and will take on one of the greatest kickboxers of all time. I'm actually quite a big kickboxing fan, so I know quite a lot about him. I've watched a few of his fights over the years. They used to call him the Prince of Kickboxing, and then he elevated to the King of Kickboxing. I mean, he's a very, very, very good kickboxer who's got decent hands. I can't lie to you. It's funny.
Simon Jordan suggests there may be a deeper strategic motive behind Oleksandr Usyk agreeing to a matchup like this, possibly connected to commercial value and the growing crossover boxing trend. While some critics dismiss it as a spectacle-driven gimmick, Usyk is widely viewed as a fighter who carefully weighs risk against reward before making major career decisions. This perspective adds an extra layer of intrigue around his true intentions heading into this bout.
Own little space, and I can see how the monetization vehicle of this works. But Usyk wouldn't be doing this unless there's a reason for it. There must be a motivation behind it. It must be some form of derivative as to what happened between the various disciplines crossing over with Ngannou and...
Ade Oladipo emphasizes that Rico Verhoeven brings an elite kickboxing pedigree that demands respect and should never be brushed aside, even when matched against a technical boxing specialist like Oleksandr Usyk. Although Rico is considered a dominant champion in his own discipline, Oladipo highlights that entering the boxing ring against Usyk represents a completely different challenge where the landscape shifts entirely. In this setting, real experience at the highest level of professional boxing becomes the defining factor.
This is a joke. This is nothing but a gimmick fight, and it's even more shameless considering the fact, one, it's on pay-per-view, and two, it's for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. Does Rico Verhoeven, with his one win over a decade ago against the guy who was 0-5, deserve a world title shot? Answers on a postcard. Can you play the recorder? No. That's the answer. This is shocking. Shocking stuff from Oleksandr Usyk. This is Oleksandr Usyk picking money over legacy.
Simon Jordan argues that there may be a deeper strategic calculation behind Oleksandr Usyk agreeing to a bout of this nature, potentially tied to business interests and the rising trend of crossover fights. While some critics label it a publicity stunt or gimmick, Usyk is widely regarded as a fighter who carefully evaluates risk versus reward before committing to major decisions. This viewpoint adds a layer of uncertainty and intrigue around his real motivations heading into the contest.
All right, it's going to be Verhoeven's second professional boxing match. But guys, Verhoeven is 6'5", 270, and he is like the dominant champion in kickboxing. I used to watch kickboxing all the time. Growing up, if there was no boxing on TV way before the UFC, they'd like ESPN to have kickboxing on. I used to watch it, right? Chris, you have fought. Now look, it is not boxing, it's kickboxing.
Ade Oladipo highlights that Rico Verhoeven carries an elite kickboxing pedigree that makes him impossible to overlook, even when standing opposite a boxing technician like Oleksandr Usyk. Although Rico is widely regarded as a reigning king in his own discipline, Oladipo stresses that stepping into a pure boxing setting against Usyk completely transforms the challenge. At this level, proven experience inside the boxing ring becomes the most important factor separating contenders from champions.
In fact, I think the fight is going to be a fun one. I think Usyk's probably going to wash Rico, but hey, you never know. Francis walked in there, knocked down Tyson, jiggled his balls in his face, and ended up almost beating him. So yeah, I'll watch this. It's an entertainment fight. It's a crossover fight, and while I think that Oleksandr Usyk has bigger fish to fry in the heavyweight division, when Kabayel is a man.
Simon Jordan proposes that there could be a more calculated strategic motive behind Oleksandr Usyk agreeing to a matchup of this nature, potentially connected to commercial opportunities and the expanding crossover boxing scene. While detractors dismiss it as a gimmick, Usyk is generally seen as a fighter who carefully balances risk and reward before committing to major career moves. This perspective deepens the intrigue surrounding his real intentions heading into the fight.
This is the real kickboxing king, a heavyweight undisputed champion that's reigned for 12 years plus, at the top. So he's fought everybody. So now, he's had every kind of challenge, he's come through that. And with him being around me in boxing as well for so long, and knowing that he fancies it. And he said, we had a discussion about it.
Simon Jordan believes there may be a more calculated strategy behind Oleksandr Usyk taking on a fight like this, potentially influenced by business incentives and the growing popularity of crossover boxing. Although some critics dismiss the matchup as a gimmick, Usyk is widely viewed as a fighter who meticulously weighs risk against reward before making major career decisions. This interpretation adds an extra layer of intrigue to his true motivation heading into the bout.